So if you've ever felt that sudden, just terrifying wave of dizziness when you stand up, or maybe you caught yourself stumbling for absolutely no reason and thought, well, I guess this is just what happens when you get older. Okay, I need you to stop right there. Today, in this explainer, we are completely dismantling this widespread, frankly disempowering belief that losing your balance is just some inevitable part of aging. Because it's not. No way. We're going to dive into some totally groundbreaking insights revealing exactly why you might not be able to walk straight after 60, and honestly, why the standard medical advice you're probably getting is often completely wrong. We are going to shift your mindset from feeling helpless about aging to focusing on active, systematic restoration. So let's dive right into this because what we're about to cover could quite literally save your independence. To really wrap our heads around this, let's look at a specific story from our source material that perfectly captures the sheer panic of this issue. Picture a healthy, active 63-year-old just hanging out in the kitchen making breakfast. They reach for a coffee mug on the top shelf, a completely normal everyday movement. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the room aggressively tilts. Their balance just goes totally haywire, and they have to literally grab the counter just to stay upright. As they put it, for 3 seconds, I couldn't tell which way was up. In that terrifying moment, they honestly thought they were having a full-blown stroke. We're not talking about a slow decline here. This was an abrupt, really frightening system failure. And naturally, right, you'd call 911. So the paramedics arrived, rushed him in, and they ran every single test in the book. We're talking brain imaging, heart monitoring, blood work, vestibular testing, the whole shebang. And the result? Everything came back perfectly normal. But here is the truly infuriating part. The doctor's response was literally, "It's just balance issues, common after 60, nothing to worry about." Really? Nothing to worry about when your entire world is spinning completely out of control? Guys, this is a classic case of medical gaslighting. It is so incredibly frustrating when the medical establishment just brushes off a life-altering, terrifying experience as just another standard symptom of getting older. But the truth is, it absolutely is something to worry about. We really need to raise the stakes here because the consequences of ignoring this are pretty dire. The number 11 should actually terrify you. According to the data, falls are literally the leading cause of injury deaths for people over 65. In the United States, one person dies from a fall every 11 minutes. Just let that sink in for a second. Every 11 minutes, a fatal fall happens. And what's the single event that precedes almost all of these falls? You guessed it, a loss of balance. So being told not to worry about balance issues isn't just frustrating, it's dangerously negligent when you actually look at the statistics. And this right here is exactly why the standard medical approach is totally failing us. Standard medicine tends to treat balance like it's just one single isolated thing. But think about your car for a second. If you take your car to the mechanic and just say, "Hey, I have car trouble," they don't blindly hand you a generic fix, right? They have to figure out if it's the engine or maybe the transmission, the brakes, or the tires. Because you obviously can't fix the car if you don't know which specific system is actually broken. Well, diagnosing balance works the exact same way. It's not just one single problem. It's a really complex network, and we absolutely have to figure out exactly which interconnected system has failed. So the real game changer here is realizing that your balance is actually maintained by 5 completely different systems all working together in perfect sync. We've got the vestibular system in your inner ear, proprioception, which basically acts as your body's internal GPS, your vision, your deep muscle stabilizers, and finally, your blood pressure regulation. Now here is the kind of terrifying math of aging. If just one of these systems fails after 60, you're going to lose your balance. If 2 of them fail, you start staggering and just can't walk straight. And if 3 of them fail, you are falling. But the crazy part is, most doctors don't even test for all 5 of these. They just assume it's age or maybe your inner ear and just send you on your way. Okay, so let's walk through these warning signs so you can actually self-diagnose exactly where your specific breakdowns might be happening. Let's break it down. If the room spins when you turn your head, well, your vestibular system's inner ear fluid has probably gotten a bit sluggish. If you're constantly tripping or just feeling clumsy, your proprioceptive joint sensors are likely deteriorating. That basically means your brain is miscalculating where your foot actually is. What about blurry tracking or poor depth perception? That's your vision degrading. If you suddenly find yourself needing the railings just to get down the stairs, those deep core and ankle muscles have probably atrophied. And if you get dizzy right when you stand up, your blood pressure regulation, specifically a condition called orthostatic hypotension, is lagging behind. When you start stacking these symptoms up, it creates this brutal, sedentary death spiral. You start avoiding moving entirely, which, of course, just makes every single system so much worse. Which brings us to a really massive realization about treatment. even if you do manage to get a doctor to prescribe physical therapy. It often still fails. Why? Because traditional treatments usually only target one single system. Physical therapists almost exclusively focus on the vestibular system, that inner ear. But, as we just saw, you have 4 other absolutely critical systems. So if you've got weak, deep stabilizers and broken blood pressure regulation, all the inner ear training in the world is really only going to give you partial improvement. You're basically missing 80% of the actual solution.
And this kind of tunnel vision leads to 4 critical mistakes people make when they're trying to fix their balance. We already talked about mistake number 1, doing only standard physical therapy. But think about that second mistake, avoiding activities entirely out of fear. Guys, this is huge. When you stop moving just because you're afraid of falling, you virtually guarantee that your proprioceptive system, your body's internal GPS, is going to get worse simply because it's no longer being challenged. Mistake 3 is ignoring those crucial blood pressure drops right when you stand up. And finally, inconsistent training. Look, your nervous system is amazingly adaptable, but it needs daily signals to actually learn. Doing balance practice just twice a week, it's simply not going to cut it.
So what's the actual solution here? It's all about integration. You have got to train all 5 systems together. The source material outlines this frankly brilliant, daily 20-minute protocol that essentially forces your nervous system to adapt and relearn. It goes like this. You spend the first 5 minutes on vestibular training, the next 5 on proprioception, 5 on vision, 3 minutes really strengthening those tiny deep muscles, and the last 2 minutes on blood pressure regulation. By stacking these very specific exercises every single day, you're actively communicating with your nervous system. You're forcing it to literally rebuild the connections that keep you upright. So training all 5 systems together isn't just some helpful suggestion. It is literally the only proven way to reverse this decline. Let's zoom in on the specific exercises inside this protocol, because honestly, this is where the magic really happens. For the inner ear, you use something called Cawthorne-Cooksey gaze stabilization. Basically, you're deliberately making controlled movements to speed up those sluggish inner ear signals. Next up, for your body's GPS, you use a Bosu ball for instability. That forces those sleepy joint sensors to wake up and actually start communicating with your brain again. For your eyes, you do smooth pursuit tracking to get that depth perception back on point. Then you target those tiny, totally invisible deep core muscles with planks and single-leg deadlifts. But my absolute favorite, the most instantly actionable tip, is this last one, isometric leg squeezes. Literally, just squeezing your leg muscles super hard for 10 to 30 seconds while you're sitting down pumps blood right back up to your heart. It primes your cardiovascular system so you don't get that awful dizzy spell the exact second you stand up. And when you actually commit to this kind of neurological training, the results are just incredible. Just listen to this 12-week transformation timeline documented by the author. During week 1, they could barely stand on one foot for 5 seconds. They literally needed the railings for the stairs. But by week 4 of doing this daily 20-minute protocol, they were standing for over 90 seconds with 0 dizziness. Fast forward to week 8, and they were doing closed-eyed balance exercises and even confidently attending a yoga class for the first time in years. And by week 12, their balance became totally automatic again. That lingering fear of falling completely vanished, and they literally reported feeling 15 years younger. How amazing is that? Which brings us to probably the most empowering realization of this entire explainer. Balance loss is absolutely not a life sentence. It's not just getting older. What we're actually looking at here is systematic neurological training. Your nervous system has this totally incredible, almost unbelievable capacity to adapt. Those tiny, deep muscles, they can be developed at literally any age. Your body's internal GPS can absolutely be recalibrated. This is a highly preventable, completely reversible system failure. But you have to stop treating it as one big mystery ailment and start actually training the 5 distinct systems that keep you safely on your feet. So, I want to leave you with the final thought to really chew on today. Which of your 5 systems is asking for help right now? Is it your inner ear making the whole room spin? Is it your body's GPS making you feel a bit clumsy? Maybe it's your vision or those deep core muscles. Or is it your blood pressure making you dizzy the second you stand up? I challenge you to identify your weakest link right now based on the symptoms we just walked through. Take back control of your independence. Start really challenging your nervous system. And please, don't ever let anyone tell you that losing your balance is just a normal part of getting older. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start addressing your 5 systems today.